हाँ करता हूँ। So, a very good evening to everyone. And today we will be covering with the second session of React Native. And our today's topic will be on the UI and interaction, that is the styling part of React Native. So before being in the previous session, we talked about what React Native is and how and where we were using React Native and what were the use cases of using React Native for developing mobile applications. So before moving on to the styling part, let me show you a very uh, basic structure of exactly how we will be writing codes in a React Native. So there is a folder in my laptop. Let me open it. Okay. So is that folder visible to us?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is a folder that you all are seeing on your screen is the folder related to the React Native. So previously we had to firstly see how exactly we'll be installing the React Native and we will be using it in a project. So I think that part related to installation of React Native we will be covering when we will be writing the code and developing a project related to that. So, but before starting with that, I am showing you the basic structure of how exactly the what we will be doing over here is that in this particular session of React Native, we will be seeing how exactly the UI and interaction part of React Native will be done. And we will be seeing the basic structure of the React Native and how exactly the folders will be divided within our project directories. So this is a this is a sample project that I have recently created on React Native and the entire project is being created under a folder that is that is a news app. So you can see that there are multiple subfolders within that main directory folder that is that is a news app. We can see that there is a expo, idea, app, assets, components, constants, lib, my app, neon db backend. So these are the certain folders that I have created. Now the folder which we had to see and which using which we will be concerned is the folder that is the app folder. So now you can see that there is a app folder, and inside that app folder there are three more folders, that is a API, auth, and a root. So let me open the auth folder. So you can see that there are four pages, that is a layout.tsx, signin.tsx, signup.tsx, and welcome.tsx. So how exactly these four files that I have created, what exactly these files means and what are the benefits of creating these files. So now when you will be creating your React Native application or when you will be installing the React Native on your system, automatically these few folders will be created, and in that among that there will be a folder that is a app, and in that there will be inside that app folder there will be four files, that is the file that is plus html.tsx, 404 plus not found.tsx, a layout.tsx, and a index.tsx. So in these four files, the basic structure of the React Native will be created. That is in the layout.tsx, the content related to what will be displayed to the user will be stored. That is the content related to the navigation bars, the sliders, the posters, etc. will be created inside the layout.tsx file. And the other files will contains the logic of your programming application. So like you can see that in the layout.tsx, when I'm opening this file, you can see that there is a basic expo router which is concerned with routing between different pages, like that is welcome, sign up, and sign in. So in the layout.tsx, as I mentioned, that over there in the layout.tsx, we are focusing on the routing portion of the project. Whereas in this, when I go on to the sign in.tsx, you can see that the code related to the sign in has been created. And obviously, this code is we will be writing this particular code when we will be working, and I will be telling you in detail how exactly you can sign in using a very popular application, that is a Clerk, which reduces your work of signing in. And also it is also a type of a platform that is quite user friendly, so it will be very useful for you when you will be using this over that point of time. Similarly, when I move to the welcome.tsx, it contains the code that will be displayed once the user will be logged in onto the application, and this particular content will be displayed at that point of time. Now, after move, as we have seen this, this will be the three, four files that will be created inside the app folder. After that, we will be seeing and moving on to the assets folder. So now in the assets folder, the content like the images, text, icons, which you will be using on your programming or for your mobile application, all the contents will be stored in that particular assets folder. And from there, you will be accessing the images, fonts, and icons, etc. So it is just like in React. There is a public folder. Similarly, in React Native, there is a assets folder which stores all the relevant information related to the image, text, and fonts, etc. Now, after that, there will be a components folder. Now, this component folder is the most important folder that we will be using and we will be encountering while working with React Native. In this components folder, the entire logic of the entire project is written. Like there is a folder that is welcome.tsx. So when I open this folder, so you can see that over here there is a the code related to Google sign-in request has been written. So the particular this particular code will be doing the work related to handling the projects as the sign-in and similarly, when I go on to the custom button.tsx, this is a basic folder that is concerned with the native Wind CSS. That is the standard template CSS that we will be using while working on React Native. So this is actually the basic structure of React Native, and all the concern matters related to the uh, description part or the logical part of the section of different pages in the React Native will be written within the components folder. And similarly, moving on to the constants folder. So according to our project, there will be a different constants folder there where there will be multiple index.tsx file. Now let me show how exactly an index.tsx file it looks like. So you can see that over here, the index.tsx file contains expo const images where uh, uh, n- um, Namak from Pharma to RUP get started as some sort of keywords are written. So we will be defining the keywords according to the requirements. Similarly, you can see that there is a export con and we have inside this we have written the content in the form of a JSON form, and this will be actually concerned with the logic that with the concern with the text that we want the user to see once the website or the application loads, and this content will be fixed in the entire mobile application that we will be developing. Similarly, there will be a lib folder where we will be creating the next routes like the logic related to the errors, that is suppose if the user one is trying to sign in and is unable to sign in at that point of time, so then certain sort of messages will be returned to the user, like sign in request has not been granted or there is a sign in error. Then that thing we will be focused on the lib folder where we will be working with that. And now, obviously, according to our project, there will be a separate backend. And over there, over this project, that is a news app, I have created a project that is concerned with um, storing the backend in a Postgres SQL. You might have recently heard this term a lot. So the Postgres SQL which we are using or we will be using in a project will be a NeonDB SQL, where the entire data will that is the entire the database portion will be stored in that particular area. And moreover, we will be using the Drizzle ORM that will be enabling us to write the codes in a much easier fashion by generating the SQL file structure code according to our projects, according to our requirements. So this was the basic structure of the React Native file structure. And there are certain files that is babel.config.js, .env, eslint.js. So these files will be initialized once you will be downloading this project. Now the file that we need to see is that tailwind config.js. Now this is the most important file that we will be using in the React Native application. Now, what exactly this tailwind.config.js file is doing? Now we have used HTML, CSS. Now, what CSS was doing was that the structure which we were creating of a website using the HTML. Now, in order to style that content of the HTML, we were using styles.css. That is the CSS we were using for that is the cascading style sheet for the styling purpose. Similarly, in React Native, we have a tailwind.css, and in React we have tailwind.css, and in React Native we have native.css. So over here in React Native, there will be a separate file of native win.css which will be concerned with the styling portion of the native app. And over here we have used tailwind.config.js. So now why I have used tailwind.config.js over here, and what is the use of using tailwind instead of using the native? So now the basic question is the answer to this question is that we know that React Native is a advanced version of React. And obviously, the content that we will be writing on React Native will be concerned and used by the help of the code structure will be similar to the React Native. That is the React. And similarly, in the code which we will be writing will be similar to that of React. So we will be styling our page component on the basis of that. And moreover, after styling the code structure or the styling of the content, later on after the entire page is created, we will be styling it further using the native win to represent it in a form of a React Native mobile application. So this is the basic thing that we will be doing. That is, firstly, we will be writing the code in basically in React, and the styling of the entire components will be done on the basis of tailwind.config.js, that is the tailwind.css. And after that, once the entire code structure is created, we will be styling it according to different devices and mobile application that using the native win.tsx or native win.config.js. So the entire content will be displayed according to different devices with height, which will be enabling our device to run on any platform in a much easier fashion. So this was all related to the structure and the directory structure of the React Native. So most probably in the next session we will be starting related to the coding part of this. But today we will be moving to the documentation part again, that is related to the UI and styling interaction. So let's move on to that. Okay. So this is the screen. I think my screen is visible, and this particular screen, this particular documentation is related to the React Native that we studied in the last session as well. And today we will be focusing on UI and its basic interaction, that is styles. Now, with React Native, you style your application using JavaScript. All of the core components except a prop name styles, the styles name and values usually matches how CSS works on the web, excepts name are written usually camel casing, etc. Background color rather than background color. So these are the different styling portion. See the difference between the tailwind and native wind is that in both in tailwind and native wind we use different forms of tags to style our application. And similarly, you can see that in React we were using background color with a hyphen in between. And in Native Wind, we will be using a background color, but there will be a camel case. That is a C will be in capital. Both the code, both the sentence, both the words would remain, would look the same, but there is a slight difference that we need to see, and that is why for users that are quite new to this React Native, they often face challenges while styling with these React Native components. So no matter, it's a new topic, but we will be when once you write the code related to this, you will be quite habitual with that. So you can see that over here there is a code that is that contains three sentences, that is big blue then red. And similarly we are just styling it using styles dot container, and in the text styles we are changing the colors, that is styles dot red, and the content is changed to red color, styles dot big blue, and the content is changing to blue, styles dot big blue. And similarly you can see the entire portion is being seen onto the screen, or that is on the right hand side of this particular screen. Now over the code which we are concerned with is that const style sheet dot create. Now over here the code is just similar to how we work with the CSS in React Native and in HTML as well. So you can see that there is a container and which is specifying that the alignment, that is the margin top colon 50, that is defining the margin of the page, along with the color frames have been provided, that is the big blue is a tag, and inside the color we are passing blue, font weight is bold, which specify that the content which will be containing the styles as big blue, the font will be bold and the color will be blue, as well as the font size is being provided over there. Similarly for red the color shade has been provided, and and the basic way of creating is that const styles equals to style sheets dot create, and the entire code is being written over there. So this was how exactly the style portion was there. Now, one common pattern is to make your component accept a style props, which in turn is used to style subcomponents. So there's a very known native issue that you will be encountering is React Native hash 29308. In some cases, React Native does not matches how CSS works on web. For example, the touch area never extends the parent view boundaries, and Android negative margin is not supported. Now, this is a very known issue that you will be and facing, although we might not face because the CSS which we will be using is already a predefined one. So that is the code will be provided to you much before we will be using with much before we will be writing the only the part related to the components. So we need not to work on how the styling will be, because most of the time in React Native when we work we generally have a code for React Native that is created automatically once the program once the entire React Native is installed along with the native. So we need not to focus on that at that point of time. But if a user wants to change the styling part according to the requirement, he or she can do it on the basis of that requirement of the projects. Now, height and width is another important part in React Native. So over here, generally, as we all know, that height and width determines its the size of the application running on the screen of the programmer. Now, fixed, there are actually three sort of dimensions, that is fixed dimension, flexed dimension, and a percentage dimension. So in a fixed dimension, the difference between these three will be that in a fixed dimension, you can see that we can easily define what how much width and height we want. That is, width, suppose we want width as 50, height as 50. We have defined it, and the background color we have provided, that is a powder blue, and it is being displayed over there. Similarly, in the next, we have defined width as 150 as 100, height as 100, and the background color is sky blue, and it is being written. Now, moving on to the flex dimension. Now, in a flex dimension, what exactly the flex dimension is mean? So now in flex dimension, um, we will be dividing the entire components into multiple sections on the basis of flexes, and on the basis of that we divide the sections and the content will be displayed. But one thing which we need to keep in mind is that the greater the value of the flex will be, the more width and height of the content on the screen will be. As you can see that over here flex is 1 and the background color is powder blue, and the content over there on the top is resembling that. Similarly, when the flex is 2, you can see that the height and the width of the sky blue has increased. And similarly for flex 3, the background color along, that is the steel blue, has a much greater width and a height. So the basic difference between flex and uh, uh, fixed dimension was that in fixed dimension, the width and height is specified the user according to the requirement, whereas in flex, we actually try to style the height and width according to the device requirement. That is, we need not to focus on every time that suppose my device is running on a particular mobile, that is suppose on a Samsung mobile, or would it run similar on an Apple or an iOS device. So we need not to focus related to them using flex. Now the third one is the percentage dimension. Now, in a percentage dimension, the height and width are represented in the form of percentages. Now, basically, the structure of related to the dimensions, the most probably the dimension portion that generally coders or the programmers use in React Native is a flex dimension, because it is much easier and moreover it is device compatible. So users generally try to use flex dimension over and prefer to use flex dimension over percentage and fixed dimension. So these were the three dimensions that we need to see. Now, layout with flexes has been discussed already in the previous document slide that I have shown, and we were discussing related to that is flex 1, 2. And that is, the greater the number of the flex will be, greater the margin and the height, the width and the height would be. So we will be moving on to the next thing, that is the images portion. Now, there in React Native, we can use images according to our requirement. Similarly, how we use images in React and in HTML or in other frameworks like Next.js, etc. So there is an image tag, and inside that image tag there will be src, that is a source location, where we have to pass the location or the folder location or the link of the webs of the image that we want to display on the screen. And image is resolved in the same way JSS modules are resolved. So now one thing which we need to think is that over there in React Native, there's a every time when you will be reloading and you will be doing Control S on your projects while you will be writing the code, the content will be rebundled every time on the React Native for Expo app. And rebundling and during rebundling, certain times there's a issue that is the image which you are providing, it will not be displayed on the screen, although the URL which you provided would be correct enough, and it will be correct. Now the concern related to is this is that the Expo is a worldwide app that is being deployed on a server, and other people are using it according to their requirement. Now, what exactly there's a thing related to image SRC is that generally what a programmer or a good coder or a good developer do is that the images which they want to use, generally they try to store that thing in the assets folder, as we have seen in the beginning of this session, that in the React native directory structure there is a folder that is a assets folder, and inside that the content related to the font, images, and the other relevant information is being stored. Now, using that way, what happens is that it becomes easy, because the entire content that the Expo Go will be fetching will be from the root directory that you have created using React Native. And if your images that you want to use on your mobile application will be stored over there, so easily it will be displayed on the screen, and there will be no such issue. So this is the most important thing that we can, when we have to actually focus on our mind. Similarly, we can use um, 2x and 3s suffixes to provide images for different screen density. And now, if you want certain image to be displayed on multiple devices, then you can obviously provide 2x or 3x suffixes so that that particular image fits on every device screen on the device on which that particular application is being opened. So this was related to that. And similarly, there is a button.js code. Now, in the button.js will be containing the documentation and the styling portion of a button that we will be using in the React Native. Generally, ShadCN is used for that purpose, because ShadCN is one of the way to reduce the coding part related to the UI development of React Native. So we will be using that when we will be working on related to that. So after this integration part, we were on to that UI part. Now color references. Now, what exactly color references is? Components in React Native are styled using JavaScript, so color properties usually matches how CSS works on a web. Generally, guides on the color uses on each platform could be found below. That is, for Android there will be certain different colors, and for iOS there will be different color. So we actually, there is a color APIs, that is React Native has several color APIs designed to allow you to take full advantage of your platform design and user preferences. Now, platform color lets you reference the platform color system. Dynamic color iOS is a iOS specific and allow you to specify which color should be used in light or dark mode. Now, exactly what color representation and color references means. Now, the basic way to understand this is that we all use Android devices, and we also use iOS devices. Now you can see that in an Android device and in an iOS device, there is a difference in the brightness of the color. Although, if suppose you have two devices and you open a multicolor video in an Android device or in an iOS device, you can easily see the difference between an iOS and an Android device related to the colors. Similarly, in React Native, suppose if you are developing mobile application related to Android, so there will be different colors that we will be using, and for iOS there will be different colors that we will be using. So in React Native, we will be using way to represent the color representation, that is RGB, that is a red, green, and blue. So using these three colors, we will be creating different shades of colors that we will be using. And similarly, that is RGBA is the second form. And both of this in there will be hexadecimal function, and this will be created using a hash function. Now the other one is that is a HSL, that is hue, saturation, lightness, where we'll be representing the colors in the form of functional notation, that is in the percentages form. That is the second thing. Hue, whiteness, blackness, that is LWB, where we represents the similarly the colors in the form of percentages. So these are the few ways, but only the colors which we will be using during our project is similarly related to RGB and RGBA. So this was related to the styling portion. Now, obviously, moving on to the animation part. Now, there are multiple animation ways to create animation in a React Native, and similarly, animations will be created using view, text, images, scroll view, flat list, and sections using the components. Now, animation dot create animate component is there is a component in React Native using which we can create animation, and that will be displayed onto the screen. So this is a error animation that is being displayed on the screen. That is a React Native that use animation is not a function that is being displayed onto the screen. So generally, I am not discussing much related to the animation portion because the animation framework which we will be using over there is a Howler framework. Mm, or any motion is a framework that we will be using in the project that we'll be creating. So, well, I think this was the concern part related to the UI and interaction. And this was all from the today's session that we did, because the basic introduction part has now been completed. And from the next session on, that is on the next Saturday, we will be starting with the project. So the project which we are creating is a sample project of our application where we will be creating a mobile application for farmers. And the entire design of the application I will be telling you in the next session. So next session, we will be discussing the related to the designing portion of the project that we are creating. So, well, this was all from my side from today. If you have any question, then you can definitely ask for me.
What is props? Props.
Rudransh, props is actually a way by which we can call, like similarly, like you might have used callback functions in Java or in the
Yes, yes,
programming
yes,
languages.
yes.
So in React Native, props are generally used for session callings. Like this particular props are mainly used during the auth, that is auth.tsx folder that I showed in the beginning of this project. Of in the beginning of this session. Now, what exactly props does is that using props we call different session IDs. That is a 404 or 403 session IDs that represents the content that is being displayed on the screen on that particular server sites. Now, suppose in a sign.tsx, if a user is trying to sign in and there is a error that is coming that his sign in is not getting successful. Now, using props, the content related to that there is a error that will be displayed on the screen of the users. That is, there is a error in your sign-in details will be displayed using a props method. And that is, the prop will fetch the error message and it will display that onto the screen of the user at that real point of time. This is exactly what props does.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.